trigger happy and I give less than a fuck. Love me or hate me, I'ma show enough, rip shit up. It's Mr. Nothing, nice on a mic stand. Mic in the left and the zest in my right hand. I took a puff, had enough now, hold up. If that was Indo, niggas getting rolled up.
What's going on, folks? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the Jay-Z and Linkin Park collaborative EP Collision Course. Now, this is kind of somewhat a secret project, but it kind of wasn't, because it did manage to crack past the mainstream and really get some things in motion. Particularly if you heard the Numb Encore collaboration, that was really a part of MTV back in the day. It was a huge staple in that crowd. But the basic backdrop of this project is like Mike Shinoda during the Grammys in 2004 had said that he was going to collaborate with Jay-Z and some mashups for MTV in their show, MTV Mashup Show, and they started piecing together the songs and decided that they wanted to go to the studio to make like new renditions rather than just use the lyrics from their songs and put them together that way. Like, you know, and what I mean by that is use the song 99 Problems and combine it with the beat from Points of Authority. They actually went in and re-recorded the vocals and did it to the new beats that they made. And for the time, it was essentially pretty clever, just because this was about the closest that like some of these mashups were really going to happen. I mean, Linkin Park was already kind of rap rock in the first place, but this was definitely a really kind of awesome look for Jay-Z in a lot of ways. I mean, he had done rock rap on the Black Album with like 99 Problems, but this is kind of like a taste of some of that aspect, is just being able to say that it was just a really good concoction in some cases. It's kind of dated in a lot of ways, you know, 18 years later it's kind of dated. But I still lightly applaud like the effort of what's happened here, just because it has enough of an impact to say it's worth like the $6 or $7 or $8 that you would pay for it. It's not a classic EP, and it probably could have used at least one more single and maybe some better production, but I'll go ahead and describe some of the stuff so you get the consensus about this project as to what I think of it. So basically the single was Numb / Encore, which, if to describe some of these songs, basically they're lyrics from Linkin Park albums and Jay-Z albums, kind of combining beats. Sometimes it's one beat more than the other, but for the most part, combining a Linkin Park hit with the Jay-Z hit and trying to see what happens with it. But with Numb and Encore, basically Jay-Z's Encore song from the Black Album was used as Jay-Z's lyrics, and it kind of had the Numb beat along with a little bit of like a slight swashing of like a new sort of remix. I mean, it feels like kind of like a electro kind of electronic kind of club song in a light sense, just kind of with a mellow and kind of like dissonant feel. It's actually one of the more dissonant moments that Jay-Z typically has, just because he's not so much of like an emo rapper and an emo musician. It's just, I feel like it was a good poignant reality to have those songs cross paths, just because Jay-Z going through his retirement from rap music at the time, combined with Chester Bennington's typical bloodletting type attitude that he usually has in his emotional vibes, worked really well. So it's just a kind of emo rap rock kind of number, and it worked well. I mean, the production was pretty straightforward, not quite as good as some, well, I mean, probably was the best beat on here, but it's just so watered down. That's really the concept about it. It's a really watered down beat, and kind of, like I said, this has a light electronic feel. This is before EDM for the most part, so just a real light electronic and kind of mellow and hazy kind of feel towards it, and just kind of just real lambent. That's just the way I would describe it. But you know, something to note on this project is Chester Bennington is really underused on here. I mean, you get the Jay-Z lyrics on here, which is in abundance because he was in his prime with most of the album, with these albums that you hear on the project. But Chester Bennington is really underused, and I feel like some of the hooks on here, like the hook for In the End, was just too good to not be on the song where that song is on. And like Faint, or well, One Step Closer was kind of another one, and they should have had Crawling on here. They chose like songs that did not, I feel like they went with more of like the Jay-Z hooks more so than the Chester Bennington hooks, and that's kind of a detractment and a derailment from the project, because I felt like Crawling would have definitely been a great beat to use, or a great chorus to use, and like they did it well with Numb, they did it well with Faint, but just every hook damn near on like Hybrid Theory and Meteora were pretty exceptional. I definitely would have thought that those would have been some mean concoctions because, like musicians like Deuce, I kind of feel like Chester Bennington is like a chorus machine. He can pump those out extremely well, but they chose to kind of downplay Chester Bennington's kind of hook potential, which is kind of a slight disappointment or a decent sized disappointment. Now, Jay Z can do some good hooks himself, and I don't remember if Mike Shinoda does them that much. I mean, Dirt Off Your Shoulder was good, Big Pimpin' was great, Izzo, okay. I really hated the beat on the H to the Izzo song, but I feel like those are the ones that you hear more. Yeah, I mean, really, you get 4 Jay-Z hooks and 2 Linkin Park hooks, which is kind of disappointing because, like I said, Chester Bennington is such a machine at hooks. That's just something to kind of pay attention to. But, like, this album really kind of drops the ball in terms of the concoctions that they try to make, just because I feel like the acumen of trying to choose the correct basis to have some of these songs just does not have the chemistry that it needs to. Like, I feel like Numb and Encore was a great one, but Izzo in the end, the song H to the Izzo, and then the mashup with In the End was a terrible rendition. I mean, they should not have used the beat for Izzo, and then really, In the End, which hit number 2 on the Billboard 100 just because of how syrupy the beat was, just hypnotic the beat was, and how melodic that the song was in general with Chester Bennington and Mike Shinoda. That was just a bad rendition overall. I kind of feel like Points of Authority, 99 Problems, One Step Closer would have been okay. I felt like 99 Problems, the song, had the better beat than Points of Authority, but they went with Points of Authority for the beat. And then, of course, they added One Step Closer within like the last 2.5 or 1.5 minutes, and that was just kind of redundant. They didn't need to have a 3-song mashup. It really sounded kind of ugly. But I mean, Points of Authority is a decent song, but I just felt like it's just kind of clumsy them trying to mash up 3 songs together. And then, like, Dirt Off Your Shoulder line from You was kind of Dirt Off Your Shoulder line from You was not stellar enough of, like, I mean, in my opinion, they could have probably went with a better one. I mean, really, the Jay-Z lyrics, the thing about this project is Jay-Z's lyrics are on point and he can pretty much intermesh with some of these, but I just feel like the songs that they chose to match up with Jay-Z just didn't work that well. I mean, that's really kind of the concept. Like, Izzo in the End and the song In the End should never be matched together. Points of Authority and 99 Problems, like, they should have went with the 99 Problems beat. Dirt Off Your Shoulder line from You is not good enough. And like, I feel like an example of a good type concoction that they did extremely well was Big Pimpin' and Paper Cut. Like, that worked extremely well. I really feel like the beat from Big Pimpin' is so, like, hypnotic and kind of entrancing. Kind of sounds like you're on a yacht at like a yacht party or something like that. And I definitely felt like that was a pretty great rendition, hearing Mike Shinoda rap to a Jay-Z song. I mean, Jay-Z, of course, can knock that song out of the park because he already had it. It's his song. But hearing Mike Shinoda go over that beat just felt like a kind of mixtape freestyle from some other rapper. It just worked extremely well. And then Gigawatt/Faint, I'm glad that they kept the beat for Faint on there, definitely, because that is such a great beat off Meteora that it really feels like some sort of like electronic kind of like I don't know, like light show type song, something like that. I mean, it's a really unique beat that Faint had, and it's definitely one of the more unique rap rock songs from back in the day. It definitely worked extremely well, and then with Jay-Z's lyrics on there, it just worked. So those are kind of some of the moments, but like they should have picked some different Jay-Z songs on here. I feel like, like the song La 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 off of Blueprint 2.1 would have worked better than like, maybe Izzo. Definitely, I would have said that they would have taken that beat and combined it, but really they should have used the In the End beat. That just was the best. That's one of Linkin Park's best beats, period. and they just chose not to do it. And then, like I said, the underperformance of Chester Bennington on here, it just seemed to be more about like Mike Shinoda and Jay-Z, which is kind of disappointing because it just came off as like a rap rock effort that just used rap choruses to be the selling point, when Linkin Park's selling point for most of their songs on their own was Chester Bennington's hooks. I mean, that was kind of the catchy part in it. But at least I like it when there's chemistry between all three of them as opposed to just Shinoda and Jay-Z. And like Numb, Encore definitely did that well, and Gigawatt/Faint did that well. But the other four songs really just kind of underused Chester Bennington, and they kind of just go with like standard rap choruses that kind of, if you don't like the song or the concoction of the beat, which has to do with the song, it just doesn't work it well at all. That's kind of the concept. It's just bad meshing together, bad laboratory kind of chemistry concoctions trying to make this stuff work. It just was kind of mostly duds, but just had enough fizz to it to warrant a purchase. But it really is pretty much a little bit less than a mixed bag. And by that, I mean it's a little bit underneath average. It's basically like I would rate it like somewhere like a 4.5, 5 out of 10. But that'll just lead me, I think that'll lead me to like how I'm going to score this project. So the 3 songs out of 6 I recommend to you would be Big Pimpin'/Paper Cut, Gigawatt/Faint, and Numb/Encore, the single. So those are the 3. The other ones I've explained to you why I didn't agree with those and why I don't recommend them. But oh yeah, the score. So me liking 3 out of 6, I'm gonna give this record a 5.5 out of 10. I feel like it's basically middle of the road. It had potential, but there's really no song on this project that I feel like is an immediate highlight. Just none of them are like something I would go out in the cold, walk in the cold to go and buy this record for it. I mean, even when it was new, I mean, maybe when it was new, it might have drifted, but this album has not aged well. It's kind of become dated, like I said at the beginning. This kind of does not have the same pungentness and spark and electricity that it could have had. And it's just kind of watered down and kind of needed a lot more of like a hit single. I mean, really, if they would have had like a better beat on the Numb/Encore song, use Chester Bennington more, and kind of pick some better songs that they could have had for like the concoctions and just better chemistry and figuring them out, it would have been dynamite. I definitely feel like the concept between Jay-Z and Linkin Park is an excellent idea because they're both multi-platinum artists with the hit potential, the lyrics potential, the beat potential, and everything else that typically charisma potential and all that. But it's just the choices and the execution of it were pretty clumsy. And that's just kind of the concept. So I give it a 5.5 out of 10. The social score I'll give a 3.5 out of 10 because it did have Numb/Encore, which, like I said, is a real kind of lazy, mellow, kind of sluggish hit, but still good in like a light sense. But it didn't, I mean, obviously because it's an EP, it's not like it's going to have 3 or 4 singles, but this was kind of short-lived and, you know, like I think most people would probably be left just kind of saying, you know, the production definitely could have been better. I mean, Big Pimpin'/Paper Cut was an excellent attempt, but it was basically just the Big Pimpin' beat. It was just good hearing Mike Shinoda over that. But yeah, so I would have to say missed opportunities for the most part. I mean, I like what they were trying to do with it, and it was definitely, it wins originality points and its cleverness, but the execution is kind of so subpar. It's like, damn, you know, you're just like, shit, why didn't this work a lot better than it needed to? Because that's just kind of the concept about it. It had potential to do more, but it just kind of wound up not understanding like the correct emphasis of how to do it. So that just kind of happens to be the thing. The future, Linkin Park, you know, unfortunately has went defunct, and Jay-Z kind of just drops albums like once every 3, 4, or 5 years. He dropped an album with Beyonce, a collaboration album with Beyonce a few years ago, but it's been a little while. So, but Beyonce is getting ready to drop an album in July of 2022 if you're here for that. And that's kind of the concept as to what the Jay-Z family has been up to. So that's kind of the stuff there.